when your passion is your biggest fear. What? Welcome to the Joyous Expansion Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Dupree, scouring the globe to bring you stories of courage, passion, and resilience. If I could sum up this podcast into one word, I would use empathy. Now let's get inspired. Welcome to the Joyous Expansion Podcast. I am your host, Brett Dupree, the champion of authentic joy, Joyous Expansion life coach, here to talk to you about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Happiness! I developed a lisp for a second, especially since I was making a joke, because that's not what we're going to be talking about. Again, this podcast is about resilience, hope, and trying to make it in this everyday world where you listen to other people's stories and go for it. Because when you listen to other people's stories, you know you can do it too. At least that's the idea. What's been happening in myself this week? Today is April 15th. Yes, the day it's meant to go out. I am still behind. I am doing so much in my life right now. So much. For one, I'm starting my own Toastmaster club, which is a lot of work. Trying to get, it's called Lightworker Toastmasters, and getting lightworkers to commit to something rigid and that has structure is not easy, especially since a lot of them are also solopreneurs and they don't always have the money. So joining, they have to tap into their chakras and ask their intuition and go by the feeling of whether or not this is a good idea. And man, it has been a lot of work holding that space for them. I've also been the PRM, the Public Relations Manager for District 2, and so much has happened there. And also not enough at the same time. I always want things to go faster, but unfortunately things are not going as fast as I want them to. However, I am doing a lot. I'm doing a lot of discussion. I'm doing a lot of presenting. I am doing a lot for them. And then there's the regular Toastmasters. I am part of 2 clubs, so that's always fun, speaking and getting in front of people. And then I'm also doing this podcast. You know how much time it takes to edit 30 minutes of material? About an hour and a half. It's generally about 3 minutes for every 1 minute of audio to make sure it sounds good, to make sure it's working well, to make sure that I get rid of all the breaths, because I do not like listening to people breathing. I don't. I really, really don't. Therefore, I don't make you listen to me breathe, because then it'll just sound creepy. I sound like Jason from those Friday the 13th movies. And nobody wants that. So thinking about all the things I have to do, a lot of it deals with this feeling of overwhelm, and I feel it. I mean, I have my regular life to do. I have budgeting to make sure, because, rent's too freaking high now, that I have to worry about making sure I spend enough money, not spend too much money. And plus I have to keep this apartment clean, which is not fun, because I'm not paying anyone to do it, which I really want to, because I don't like doing this. I don't like cleaning. I don't. Plus I also have to worry about my weight, because I would like to weigh less. If you see pictures of me, you notice I'm a bigger man. And yes, I don't mean just in the non-literal sense of being the bigger man in an argument. No, I'm gigantic. I'm over 360 pounds, which is more than a nose guard in the NFL. Someday I really want to get down to bigger linebacker, or maybe even bigger running back. Or dare I dream, regular running back? Yes, I judge my weight by... Also, that's how I remember parking spaces, is by football players. Oh, I'm in parking space 234. That is Patrick Surtain, Brett Favre. And bam, I can remember that parking space. When I try to remember 2, 3, 4, I can't remember it, even though that's just 2, 3, and 4. That was the number I came up with in my head? I didn't even do that on purpose. Sheesh. But the question is when I think about everything in my life that I'm trying to accomplish, losing weight, getting a budget, and how some of it I'm not doing well, such as losing weight or keeping a budget, and then thinking about all the things I'm taking up, there's this feeling of overwhelm. I can feel it. And I just want to spend money and eat all the food, which is how I deal with overwhelm, which is not good when saving money and eating less, or at least not eating all the food is part of the goals. Kind of, you can't see me punch my fists together. But if you were watching me, number one, that would be weird because I'm in my underwear because it's freaking hot. Sorry for that visual, but I'm all about truth on the Joyous Expansion podcast. And when your goals butt heads and your desires butt heads, there's just some disconnect. And it's very true that I feel that overwhelm, that I feel that pain, that I feel this welling inside of me, the fact that it's difficult. And I want to escape. I just want to binge watch Netflix, even though I don't feel I have time to even watch Netflix because I have so much to do. And I've been putting off a lot as well, such as some of the things I wanted to do for District 2. But hopefully today I will do that. I might even make a website today. I was thinking about that. But we'll see. We'll see. Probably won't get around to that. Gotta put this out there before midnight, so at least I feel I got it done on a Wednesday. Oh, and I'm also behind on interviews. I need more people. I only have 5 more left, and I have maybe 1 coming up, which I will probably get canceled because she's done that a few times. But again, my schedule is very busy. I mostly just have mornings and Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, Sundays. Not indicative to getting people interviewed. Maybe I need more West Coast people. West Coast entrepreneurs. They can do it at lunchtime. I can do it in my morning. Yeah. But the thing I decided to do is the same way I got over. Wow. I did not expect to go there. A lot of times I like to try to tie my intro part, my first part, into what the person is talking about in our interview. And I just went off on a loving tangent right there. I just fell in love with my life once again. So, since I can't think of a good segue, I am excited to introduce you to Jenapher Henslee. Jenapher Henslee. I said her name right this time. This is a very interesting interview as this is another person who's introverted and not boisterous, if you will. But the fact that she was willing to come on here makes me so happy. So happy. I was very excited to interview, and I loved this interview. It was so much fun. So first, let me introduce you to her, and then you can listen to this amazing interview. Jenapher Henslee is an intuitive founder of Jenapher Intuitive Readings on Facebook, and the blog, I Believe I Was Promised Enlightenment. I love that name. Jenapher is currently using her psychic abilities with people who feel like they just need a much-needed boost in their lives, which she mostly does through the art of channeled writing. But she also likes to meet her clients face-to-face when she can. Jenapher has always been able to connect to spirit, but also realized her dream of helping people intuitively in the last 5 years. Jenapher lives in Auburn, Washington, with her 14-year-old son and a menagerie of animals. What a fun word, menagerie. So now, it is my honor, pleasure, and full of heart love to introduce you to Jenapher Henslee. Hello, Jenapher, and welcome to my podcast.
Hi.
It's so great to hear from you again. Last time I saw you, you did an intuitive reading for me.
I did, yes. It was fun.
It was. How did you get into intuitive reading?
I just felt like it was something that I really wanted to do. I've always been an intuitive person, and I wanted to do for other people, and it was very scary though.
What was the scary part about getting into intuitive reading?
A lot of it was the idea of being wrong. I was afraid that somebody would come back to me and go, "Oh no, this is absolutely wrong. You are a fraud. This is crazy. You should never do this again." It was just that kind of thing. And that fear never went away. And I mean, from start to finish, even like when I would get hits on my Facebook page for people who wanted readings, there was never like a relief there, like, oh, good, I get to do a reading. There was more fear, but I knew I had to do it for them because it was something I wanted to do.
What drives you to want to do readings?
Because the feeling of being of connecting with that person and them feeling better because of a reading I've done, and them, me connecting to that part of them that they need help with and helping them, that makes it worth it. So, even though I'm scared to death, it really, that would be the reason I do it, is because, them going, oh yes, this is totally exactly what it is, or whatever, or this happened exactly how you said it would. That makes it worth it.
So I'm curious, how did you discover your gift? What was the process of discovering that you can do such a thing?
My whole life, I've kind of felt like I kind of could pick up on things. And that's kind of how we say it, is pick up on things, like things that are going to happen, or things that other people didn't kind of know were going to happen, that I would pick up on. I just really wondered if maybe I could do that for other people too, and it turns out I could. And so that was really neat to me. But like, there was I don't know if it was a lack of self-confidence, even though I had been able to do it my whole life, but doing it for other people was just still very, very scary. There's this book, I believe, by a woman named Susan Jeffers, that's called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And that's really what I had to do. I mean, because the fear never went away.
Yeah, I've read that book. It's a very good saying. One thing that I've noticed in my 10 years of running this business, that fear really doesn't go away, and it is that fear that keeps me from being consistent, going for it, and doing the work I need to do to keep on going and to help change people's lives.
Right, because, there is no getting rid of fear. It's always there. There's no magic pill or way to, I mean, you can kind of dumb it down a little bit with, alcohol or whatever, but it's still going to be there, especially if you're doing something long term, your job or your calling or something like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. While liquid courage is really good if you want to go over and talk to that person you're attracted to, it is not very good for running a business.
No, and you still have to see that person again if you go on a date with them and you can't show up inebriated. So you have to deal with that fear. The fear is still going to be there.
So I'm curious, you had feelings and hits that you're able to see the future or things that are going to happen and read people and yourself. How did you convince yourself that you weren't making it up?
It was a different feeling than a, because, imagination takes work in my mind. And this didn't take work. This came from a different place. It came from just, it was like the inside of my body, but the outside, it's really strange to explain, but it was like, it was just there. And it like was not something that came from my own mind, but it was like a knowing. One time I was in meditation and I saw a meteorite coming towards me, and it was the weirdest thing. And I was, don't show me things unless I was talking to God at the time, unless it's something I can do something about. And the next day, it was that I heard that the Russian meteorite had gone through Russia. And I had a dream about the 2004 tsunami the morning it happened. And so things like that are kind of like, okay, so I'm on to something here. I've got to believe in myself for that. I'm actually being proven right in the news. So that's kind of how I came to believe in what I could do.
So when it comes to talking to others about this, what are some of your greatest fears behind it?
You're messing with people's lives, I feel, because the things that people come to me with are really serious parts of their lives, their relationships, their jobs, their family, their things that are most important to them in their lives. They're asking me for help with those. And they're asking me to use my intuition to help them with that. It's a lot of pressure to feel like, okay, I can do this and connect to this person and make sure that because it's like, I feel like it would be an insult to injury if I said, okay, yes, I can do this, and then I give them their reading, which I did it on paper, and it was totally wrong. And then they felt gypped on top of being really upset about this relationship or whatever. So I felt like it was a sacred kind of thing to do my best to be right, quote unquote, right, when it comes to doing readings for people.
So how did you start putting yourself out there?
I kind of put my feelers out. I did it for free with people that I knew and trusted the most, who I knew would be honest with me, but would also not totally put me through the ringer if I was total crap. They were very kind and they seemed to be very impressed. So I was like, okay, so there must be something here. Then when I started charging, more fear came up, of course, because, money comes into it and you don't know how much to charge, and it's a whole nother ball game, basically, especially for such an arbitrary thing. But I started advertising on Facebook. Basically, it was Facebook and for my friends, and that's how I got my business.
I would love for you to elaborate on the money part, how adding money to it added the fear.
Oh, of course. Oh, uh, because asking for money for something like that is super scary, because it's not like you're on eBay and you have this antique plate you want to sell and it's worth whatever X, and you go to a person, you say, okay, I'm going to sell this plate for $600. Something like intuitive ability doesn't really have set standard. I mean, for some people, I know that they can charge hundreds of dollars for it, but I didn't feel comfortable with that because I still, at the time, was, oh, I don't know about this. I'm not sure I'm doing as much as I could, if I'm good at all. But at the same time, I've heard that you have to show your own value by as much as you charge, because if you don't charge enough, you won't get customers, and if you charge too much, you won't get customers. You have to find that sweet spot where, and then that'll be the universe saying, yes, that's where you should be. That's where I was trying to find that. But at the same time, it's like somebody would offer me more and I'd be like, oh my God, okay, sure, thank you. That's still really scary because money is just a very charged thing, and doing it on something really ephemeral is really tough.
Yeah, that reminds me of a story that I heard a few years ago that a friend told me after I got a complaint over one of my workshops because I charged her $10. And she told me that one of her gurus told her that he once gave a 2-hour workshop for $99 and everyone stood there silently. He charged $50 and people were kind of, bringing things up. When you charge $10, people ask for their money back.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I really believe that because you're showing how valuable your product is by how much you charge.
So how do you get to the point where you feel comfortable with finding your rate?
For me, if I was at the point where I was in a dream world, if I had regular clients who were paying $100 each time and everything was always wonderful, then I would be comfortable. That's in a dream world. I think the closest you could probably get is just realizing that you just have to find a number that feels right in your gut and go with that. And if just that's what you have to do, you have to follow your own intuition.
I also think somewhat of a almost self-worth also comes into it. What am I doing? Is it really worth that much? Kind of question that comes up. At least for me, I know it does.
Right. Because I mean, the readings I was doing were not only emotionally taxing, but it would take me 2 hours to write them. For me, like $25 is not enough. My intuition was telling me that. So you have to take that kind of thing into account too, the actual worldly stuff. How much time am I spending on this? And, how much effort is it? And that kind of thing.
And don't forget expertise.
Right. It's also true.
So you push through your readings, and as an intuitive reader, what are you working on for the future of getting yourself more out there?
Well, with advertising, I think. And one other thing that caused a lot of trepidation in me, which is just another word for fear for me, the word psychic. That's why I use intuitive, because psychic is such negative connotation. It's so I have to use the word intuitive in a way people will understand what I'm doing, but at the same time not think I'm a weirdo. um, and believing that the right people will come to me who need what I can do, and to believe in myself mostly, because I think that's been my biggest problem is to because I've spoken to psychics and intuitives before, and they don't seem to have any problem believing in themselves. And I think I can take that and make it my own and fake it till you make it, as much as everyone loves that phrase. And just getting myself out there by advertising and talking to the right people in the circles, that going to parties and reading people at parties, that's how I met you, and just wherever I can, psychic fairs.
Have you done a psychic fair before?
I have not. That would be interesting for me. I think that would be a really character building exercise.
That's a good way of putting it. Is there something holding you back from just booking one this week?
No, honestly, I haven't really been doing my intuitive work for a while. I don't know why. And maybe that's what's missing out of what we talked about earlier about, one of the things that I could do with my life. No, I mean, I could definitely do that.
This is something that I think of a lot. I've been at this for 10 years with, I like to say, a variable amount of success. The variable is a lot smaller than I want it to be. But the thought of stopping and focusing all my efforts on software or something like that doesn't ever occur to me. Like, I think about it, but it doesn't sit well, and I just can't imagine stop trying and keep going. I was wondering if you had similar thoughts.
About taking a break, or
What keeps you from not just saying, I'm never going to intuitive read again, and I'm just going to focus my studies and
just the kind of person that I am, just because I'm such a spiritual person. It's just part of my makeup to not, I just can't, you know. It's like it's just against my nature, I would say. You can't go against nature.
so say basically it just feels like part of your DNA. It's a part of who you truly are.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm curious if you're willing to go into more about what you love about intuitive reading, how much fun you have.
Sure. Yeah. It's like when I'm not scared out of my mind. um it it there's nothing like it. It's the most interesting feeling in the world. It's like there's this feeling like when I get into that, I'm trying to think of the right word.
Zone?
The zone, yeah. It's like when you're at the dentist and they put that weighted blanket on you. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like a hug from the universe. And you just you tap into something that most of us never tap into ever, or in so that's like that's part of my payoff, is being able to feel that for just a little while, because I kind of feel like this lightheadedness, but like in the best way. So it's kind of like a meditation, but it's different because there's a kind of a different feeling to it. So it's definitely like being in a zone, but with a different kind of all over body feeling. It's very cool. I I like it a lot.
That does sound pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, how does your intuitive reading help people?
I've been told, and I have to go by my clients, what my clients say is it gives them insight. And insight to me is one of the most important things that we can get in this life, especially when we're hurting or there's something wrong or we're confused. And so I'm really happy to be able to give that to them. So that really makes me happy. I'm always excited and relieved if they come back and say, wow, you gave me a lot of insight, or, you answered this question for me, or, yeah, this was exactly what I needed. That kind of stuff really makes it worth it.
Yeah, I can see that. I think awareness, a word I use instead of insight, which I think is close enough to the same thing, is one of the first and, in my
Mm-hmm.
humble opinion, most important steps into changing one's life.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I remember our reading how you pretty much guessed, I wouldn't say guessed, sorry, intuitive, my next relationship almost to a T, and how it also wasn't going to last very long at the same time.
Did I really? Because I didn't know that. So that's that's good to know. I mean, not it's unfortunate, but it's good to know that I hit it on the head.
So, do you have any other cool stories from other people, other clients that you can share? Maybe change their names if it's too personal or something, or at least how you helped.
Well, can just say that relationships are just by far the biggest thing that people come to me about, and I think that's just the human condition anyway. There's never been like a huge revelation like, you will meet your next relationship at the circus or anything, but I wish there was. That would be really cool. I wish I had a really cool story. Unfortunately, I don't.
All right. We're coming towards the end of our time. And one thing I love to ask people to do is to give a 1 minute of motivation where you just either you condense your message that you would like people to walk away with your story for 1 minute, or maybe think of it along the line of you get to meet your 8-year-old self and you have 1 minute to instill all the wisdom that you've learned up until that moment to your 8-year-old self.
Oh, okay. So for a whole minute. Okay. Well, if I was going to meet my 8-year-old self, I would tell her that fear is a natural part of life. It's the more she runs from it, the more it's going to chase her. And if that book was around, I would have her have read it, feel the fear and do it anyway. To borrow another phrase, the only way out is through. You have to go through the fear to have what you want, to just relax more, because my 8-year-old is not a very relaxed little 8-year-old, unfortunately. So to just feel the fear when it's necessary, but don't always have it there with her. So,
Awesome. Thank you so
yeah.
much. I truly enjoyed our
Thank
time together. I love your story. When I first envisioned my podcast, it was practically this type of story that I envisioned. Somebody who's going out there, someone who has a passion, someone who has a love for what they do, but it's just those fears that and anxieties that can hold us back, that's held me back, and the knowledge of listening to someone else who's going for it, who's not going to give up because it's who she is. And how cool is that? I know that if someone else who is listening to this story who is also in that situation, to just know that we're not alone. Our struggles are not to the point where it's special, where we are the only ones going through this. And to hear of other people's work and how also you can help people through that, I think is really awesome. So again, I thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
And there you have it, folks. Feel the fear and do it anyway. And the only way to deal with fear is to go through it. Aren't these stories magical, inspirational? Regular people going through regular problems. I've heard so many inspirational people talk, and all of them almost have the same story of something that is much worse than me. And you think it would have the effect of, if that person can do it, so can I. They lost a leg in Nam, and now they sell one-legged pants and are billionaires. If they can make it selling one-legged pants and make that a trend, I can make it in my shoe business. Or one of my favorites, I can't think of his name, but the awesome story from dude from Africa. Told this amazing story. Albert Mensa, yeah, that's his name. He told this amazing story on how he used to, on Christmas, have chicken, and the way they would have chicken is the dad would take his piece and they would go around this big family, and by the time it was him, because he was the runt of the litter, and he had this little piece of chicken left, and he would savor that chicken. And he talked about how hard it was for him to push and go to college and go to the United States. To hear this story, it's so inspirational. It led him to come to the United States with $24, and the first thing he bought was underwear, because he never owned underwear before, and an 8-piece bucket of chicken for KFC. And he ate the entire 8-piece right there, because that was something he never thought was possible, was to eat a bucket of chicken. And yes, it's inspirational. Yes, I think to myself, if he can do it, then I can. But then I think, I've never been poor in Africa. I've never lost my leg in Nam. I never suffered that setback. And that is when those parts of my brain twist and turn as I almost justify my pain. Even though the truth of the matter of pain is like a gas that fills the space. And it's not a contest to see who has the most tragic life. But at the same time, it's listening to stories of people who've had problems more similar to mine. People who aren't from extreme poverty. People who haven't had extreme cases of sickness or cancer. Just the people who are like me, who have anxieties, but want to make a difference in this world, who want to be a light worker, who wants to go forth and move forward. Those are the people that also inspire me and I can relate to. Those are the stories that really help me keep on going. It's because it's not just about the people who try to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, which again, of course, is impossible because you can't pick yourself up for the bootstraps. And that is what that saying is for, that you need help. But anyway, it's not just the people who started from nothing and became something. It's the people who started from okay and then kept on going and kept on going. Not because they want to be famous, not because they want to be rich, not because they want even a successful career. No, they want to make an impact. They want to help people. They want to serve. And that is what energizes me most of all. Yes, the Russell Brunsons out there, the Tony Robbins, people who just really feel the need to build a 6, 7, 8-figure company. They can be inspiring and they have inspired me in the past, but at the same time, it's the people who consistently keep on failing. People who are in the midst of their struggle at this moment in time, but are not going to quit because it's in their DNA. This is who Jenapher is. Jenapher is an intuitive, and she has to be an intuitive, because if she is not an intuitive, who would she be to her? And what does that really mean? That is truly and utterly 100% to me inspiring. I love the fact that she keeps on going with her purpose. And I hope that you're listening to this in 2020 and she is on Oprah doing readings for people and truly making that impact that she wanted. Or even 5 years from now, 2023, if the earth hasn't exploded yet, or become a hot box due to conservative climate denial. Yeah, I went there. I wish her nothing but the success, but I know from the bottom of my heart that she will make an impact because she has an amazing, amazing heart. Woo! I am feeling the fire today. Do you feel that love pouring through me? Yes, totally. And part of it is because I once again listened to that amazing interview with that amazing, beautiful soul, Jenapher Henslee. And if you want to get in touch with her, go to facebook.com, where she helps both via email or in person. To contact her directly, facebook.com, Jenapher Intuitive Readings. That's JenapherHensleereadings. Or you can go to my website, pod.joyousexpansion.com, where I will have a link. Thank you once again for listening to my podcast. I thank you so much, because if you weren't listening, then this would just go out into the ether of the internet and I would be talking to no one. Though I would still be talking, because that is who I am and this is now what I do. Even if I do run out of interviews. But it doesn't matter, because I dedicated to do a year's worth of podcasts. Anyway, if you want to get in touch with me, if you have an email, I'll read it on the podcast. You can reach me at Brett Dupree at joyousexpansion.com, BRE 2 T's, DUPRE 2 E's at joyousexpansion.com. If you see sexpansion, you know you have spelled it correctly. You can go to my website at www.joyousexpansion.com. That's joyousexpansion.com. I have a free gift for you, and you can get more information about coaching with me. And I forgot to say that I am your host, Brett Dupree, the Joyous Expansion Life Coach, champion of authentic joy, catalyst of transformation, beacon of love, and who has more titles than Alexander the Great. You can find my podcast at pod.joyousexpansion.com. If you like this, like and subscribe and all that jazz. Also, if you truly love me and you're like, I would like to give him money, you can send it to me. Also, you can have an affiliate link at pod.joyousexpansion.com for Acuity scheduling, the scheduling software that makes scheduling amazing. I am in love with Acuity, and you would be too if you used it. And finally, I once again thank you so much for being who you are and loving what you do and moving forward in life, because sometimes it's difficult, but remember, if you do it from the heart, everything will work out. So once again, I, Brett Dupree, remind you to be love, to be joy, to be awesome. Now play my jingle.
JoyousExpansion.com. JoyousExpansion.com. Come and say hello to Brett Dupree. He is an inspirational life coach, good for you and good for me. He turned my life from grey to blue, I'm sure he'll do the same for you. Get in touch and you'll see your life will change dramatically. JoyousExpansion.com. JoyousExpansion.com. Yeah.